How are you? I hear good, I hear fine, I hear great. I just asked you one of the most commonly asked questions in an average day. How are you? It just rolls off of my tongue. But do I really care? See, because I have to finish this TEDx today, and I do not have time to hear how each and every one of you are doing. I'm sorry. I'm having a Larry David moment. That felt really mean. I do care. And if you would like to tell me how you're doing after this TEDx, I will make sure that I listen. This question, how are you, comes in many different forms. What's up? Or the abbreviated version, sup. Head nod, optional. We ask because it's a nice gesture. But do we really care? And are we equipped with the listening skills to give a genuine response? Sometimes we ask, how are you? And then we walk away before the person has an opportunity to respond. How are you is often used to check in with family and friends and describe the synopsis of their day. For example, recently I was on the phone with my niece and I asked her, how was your day? I genuinely wanted to know how her day went. She responded, as many of us do, it was fine. If we were on Family Feud and 100 people were polled and asked, what are the top 2 responses to the question, how are you? Good and fine will be number 1 and number 2. Good, fine. They're like verbal blinks. We just say them without even thinking. So, as an educator, trained in the ability to ask critical thinking questions, I asked my niece, why was your day fine? She took a long sigh and said, I don't know, it was just fine. So even though we were on the phone, I could see her eyes rolling in the back of her head, and I could see the annoyed expression on her face. See, my niece is a teenager, and I know that throughout her day, she experienced a myriad of emotions. The emojis in her text messages prove it. Now, I know what you all are thinking. Jamila, it's not that serious. How are you is just a nice gesture. It's not that deep. Well, maybe, but I have a theory. My theory is that how are you has become the catalyst of complacency. We are so conditioned to ask meaningless questions and respond with surface level answers that it spills over into other parts of our lives, into the decisions that we make and the risks that we do not take. So today, I have a challenge for you. Instead of asking, how are you? Try asking, why are you? Why are you proud of your accomplishment? Why are you feeling that way? Why are you committed to beliefs that no longer serve you? Why are you passionate about your career? Why are you pursuing a career that you're not passionate about? Why are you? So when we define our why, it connects to our purpose, and our purpose drives our passion. Let me give you some personal context. I'm an education consultant. I work with schools to create equitable, positive, and productive school climate and cultures in marginalized communities. Marginalized communities are communities where the people feel unseen, unheard, and unvalued. That is what I do. How I do it is by consulting with schools to create culturally responsive, value-aligned structures and principles. Often when I'm working with teachers, one of the first questions I ask is, why did you choose to become a teacher? Typically, I get very surface-level responses. I like literature, I like science, I like math. I come from a family of teachers. Sometimes I get responses that are a little more philosophical. I believe it's my calling. I want to give back. Then I decide to ask a little deeper of a question. And I'll ask, why did you decide to become a teacher in this particular community? Because often their why for becoming a teacher looks a little different when they are teaching in a marginalized community. John Dewey, the educational theorist, once said, We do not learn from our experiences. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. Our experiences shape our why. My why was shaped before I was born. My mother is from Bermuda. 22 miles of pink sand, turquoise water, and the most warm and inviting people you will ever meet. My family still lives in homes built by my great-grandfather, Joachim Martin, on land handed down to him from his father, John Martin. Around the early 20th century, Marcus Garvey, the Jamaican-born political activist, entrepreneur, orator, and journalist, was spreading his Back to Africa movement throughout the Americas and the Caribbean through his independent newspaper, The Negro World. While in Bermuda, a local chapter of the United Negro Improvement Association was being formed, and my great-grandfather was a member. Marcus Garvey tried to come to Bermuda, but his entry was denied by Parliament. They did not want Marcus shaking up those warm and inviting people of Bermuda with that Back to Africa talk. In a response to contest Parliament's decision, a letter was written to Bermuda's European newspaper, the Royal Gazette, but that letter never made it to print. In an effort to make sure that the voices of Black Bermudians were not muffled, my great-grandfather and 4 other investors started the first Black newspaper in Bermuda, the Recorder. My great-grandfather was an entrepreneur, a master tradesman, and an investor. His why was to amplify the voices of Black Bermudians. We do not learn from our experiences. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. Our experiences shape our why. My why was shaped before I was born. My father was born in Harlem during the 1940s. At this time, Harlem was the place to be. Langston Hughes, Miles Davis, Malcolm X speaking on soapboxes on 125th Street, and my dad witnessed all of it. To his teachers, he was just another boy from General Grant projects who would never amount to anything besides somebody who worked with his hands. But despite their low expectations, he joined the military, traveled the world to places such as Philippines and Thailand. He eventually was stationed in Bermuda, where he met my mother, Monica Martin. They fell in love, got married, and moved to West Philadelphia. Yes, West Philadelphia, where I was born and raised. On the playground is where I spent most of my days. I'm sorry, it's a rule. If you're from West Philadelphia, you have to sing the song. No matter where you are, you just stop, sing the song. So despite the fact that my parents did not go to college, they were educated, and they had drive, and they had persistence. And my dad had my mother. And they started one of the most successful Black printing companies in Philadelphia. I wish that my dad's teachers could see him now. My dad was an entrepreneur. His why was to be an example for future Black businesses and to prove to his former teachers that he was more than just a Black boy from General Grant projects. I was 9 years old when my parents picked me up from Philadelphia International Airport for a summer away in Bermuda. As we were driving, we took a different route home. But I didn't think anything of it because it wasn't unnatural for us to take impromptu drives and listen to music. However, we drove to a neighborhood with split-level homes, driveways, and white children playing on the front lawn. We were no longer in West Philadelphia. And no matter how hard I clicked my heels, there were no corner stores, no water ice, no soft pretzels. And it was around the corner from our new home in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, where I saw a swastika spray painted on the ground beneath my feet. My first day of elementary school, I was so excited to see brown kids who looked just like me. But at the end of the school day, my new brown friends got into a yellow school bus and went in the opposite direction home as I waited on the steps to be picked up. That was my first experience with education inequality and busing. Education was paramount in my house. My homework had to be on the kitchen table to be checked and signed every single night. My dad checked the math and the science. My mother checked the English and the social studies. Monday through Friday, I was not allowed to watch TV, with the exception of The Cosby Show and A Different World on Thursday nights. Sometimes my dad would come home from the office late and tired, and he would say, "Mila, get an education. When you get an education, you work smarter, not harder. And you can hire people to work for you." I like that part. At that young age, I wasn't able to make the connection between entrepreneurship and education. I just knew that not going to college was not an option. I was the first person to graduate from college in my family. I graduated from the Lincoln University, the first historical Black college and university, class of 1997. Although the Huxtables on The Cosby Show depicted a reality that was very real to me, a wealthy Black family who were very well educated, I experienced a juxtaposing reality. While in high school, I dated a guy who lived in a drug-infested neighborhood outside of Philadelphia. He was raising his twin nephews. They had not received any early childhood exposure, and they were developmentally delayed. So a few days a week, I would go over and teach them their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and how to write their name. Because even at a young age, I knew that they were being set up for failure. We do not learn from our experiences. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. Our experiences shape our why. My why to become an educator in marginalized communities is very powerful to me, because I do not want the children in those communities to grow up feeling that they are marginalized no matter what society tells them. I want them to be able to see themselves, hear themselves, and value themselves for the wonderful people that they are. And I want them to value their community. Self-aware adults often check in with themselves and ask, why? When we ask why, we help to build deeper understanding, empathy, and cultural connections. Asking why can help us to get to the root of some very serious problems: racism, sexism, ageism, gender inequality, violence, abuse, greed. Right now, we are living in a very polarized nation with 328 million different people. That's 328 different narratives. So why are we not asking why? I'll tell you why. Fear. Fear is an acronym that stands for false evidence appearing real. When we do not ask ourselves why, we fear loss. We feel that we're going to lose values and beliefs that we held on to for so long that may or may not still be true. When we fear asking others why, we fear that their perspective is somehow going to challenge our own and make us look in the mirror, and we might not like what we see. So earlier, I posed to you a challenge. And that challenge was, instead of asking, how are you? Ask, why are you? I hope that you will accept that challenge without fear, because you may learn something about yourself and each other. Thank you.